Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Casey. Thank you so much for bringing us to this space with the sounds of our ancestors. Yes. Good evening, beautiful people. Oh, yes, let me do that. That sounds nice. Good evening, beautiful people. Good evening. Oh, welcome to the Emancipation Celebration. My name is Natalie Bell. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your wonderful host for this evening. Yes. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of information and insights, and listen to people who have many stories to tell as it relates to the emancipation that we celebrated on August 1st. Couple of housekeeping notes really quickly. The bathrooms are outside to my left, around the corner. They are gender inclusive. Please, at this point in time, check your cell phones and put them on silent. I will give you a moment. As we need to be sure that all of our speakers and everyone has your undivided attention this evening. Okay, wonderful. So before we begin with today's program, it is imperative that we honor and acknowledge the lands upon which we stand. I'd like to call upon Shelley Cook up to the podium. Shelley is a born and raised Winnipegger, a proud Indigenous woman with family ties to Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. Shelley was the first recipient of the John W. Defoe Free Press Scholarship for Aboriginal students in 2009. This scholarship led her to her first new term experience, and she enjoyed work placements at the Sun in 2010, not 2018, to 2011, and spent this summer after graduating in pre-com as a reporter for the Portage Daily Graphic in Portage, Manitoba. Shelley's other notable work includes covering the 2014 Juno Awards. Okay. Concert reviews, and a weekly mix of 6-column for the Metro Winnipeg. Everyone, please welcome Shelley Cook.
Thank you, that was very humbling. I'm just here to give a land acknowledgement. But first, I just also wanted to say thank you so much for having me here. So I humbly acknowledge that we are gathering tonight on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I also acknowledge Treaty 3, the traditional territory of Shoal Lake First Nation number 40, which is the primary water source.
It's so important that we continue to recognize the importance of what has happened in our past so that we can stand here today. So thank you, Shelley. We also need to make sure we bless this evening. We bless the people, we bless the food, all of the attendees, the folks who have made this event happen this evening. And so I would like to also welcome to the podium, Pastor Brian Archer.
Thank you. Could you please rise with me? First of all, I'd like to greet all the representatives of the different levels of government, special invited guests. I'd like to greet you all. It's wonderful to be here for such an auspicious and pivotal celebration. Let's pray. Almighty and everlasting God, we come before you today, acknowledging, O God, that you are the great I am, that you are the great giver, and most importantly, that you are the great liberator. We want to acknowledge today, O God, that through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come, but your grace has brought us safe thus far, and your grace will lead us home. Today, O God, we thank you that we can be here to celebrate emancipation. And in celebrating, O God, we are thankful to those who blazed the path before us. We are thankful for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in many cases for us to be here. So we do not take this lightly. We also thank you, O Lord, for those who found it within themselves to organize this day in which we can celebrate and in which we can look forward, because we know with confidence that if we do not know from where we're coming, we will not know where we're going. So we say thank you. Almighty God, we thank you that we could be here of different shades, different creeds, different colors, and join in celebration. And may you bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. And may you bind us together in your everlasting love. We pray these mercies in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Ghost. And we say amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Archer. At this time, I'm going to actually ask you to stand again if you are able, as we will be hearing our Canadian national anthem, as well as the Black national anthem, which will be by video rendition. And to start us off with the Canadian anthem, I would like to call upon Miss Rochelle Thompson.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, give all of us from land, and in God's mercy and Savior, give stand for stand and ground. Always fight, turning the prayer, there's something yourself now. God keep our land, glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard.
Lift every heart.
I like this part right here. Just encourage it. Let's go. All the brothers out there. For all my sisters in the struggle. Till that day. Keep your courage.
When you hear that anthem in your soul, yes? Woo! Before I get into the beginning of the program, I just want to give a very big thank you for the catering that was done by Brownie's Urban Bistro when you came in. Yes. Actually, I should probably say what it all was. Let's see that. Let's see that. There was jerk wings, fish fritters, beef skewers, and cornbread, tomato and cheese food cups. So thank you, Brownies. That was awesome. Even though I didn't get any, but okay. Maybe somebody saved me something, but all right. So our program tonight begins in this room and ends in Bueller Hall. So we have a program of storytelling, we have a program of singing and music and informational, insightful things this evening. And then there will be the Freedom Concert out in Bueller Hall. Those of you that walked in from that way, you will have seen the stage set up and whatnot. And I hope everyone has hot food. Yes? Does anyone know what that means? Hot foot? It means we're going to dance. We're going to dance later. Yes. Okay. And there will also be food for purchase in Bueller Hall, and that food has been provided by Gladys Caribbean Kitchen. Yes. Okay. Okay. 188 years ago, August 1st, 1834, the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 came into effect. 188 doesn't really seem that long ago, does it? Slavery was here, right here in Canada. The history of Canada's active participation in slavery is very real and traumatic for both Black and Indigenous peoples. Forced to change their names, abandon their faiths, reject their cultures, stop speaking in their native tongues, and of course exposed to the most brutal forms of torture and abuse enforced by law. It is important that all Canadians understand the impact slavery has had on this country outside of just within our Black community. Everyone needs to understand the impact. Many people, myself included, feel those effects to this day. So today we celebrate. We honor the past, reflect on our present, and prepare for the future, continuing to fight for equality and inclusion, educating people on the heritage of the people who have African descent right here in our communities. Our resilience, our successes, and our communities coming together will lead to positive action and a way for our ancestors whose shoulders we stand to be remembered. Yes? Yes. With that, I would like to call upon several distinguished community leaders to bring us greetings here today. And the first person I will call upon is a longtime educator, community advocate, and Jamaican, which, by the way, tomorrow is Independence. Where is Jamaica? Where is that? Yes, raise up, raise up. All right, pick up on his head. Oh, yes. Yeah, okay, I'm back to the program. Back to the program. So, an educator, community advocate, and the president of Black History Manitoba, Ms. Mavis.
How do I follow that? Right. Never always afraid of mine, but anyway, this one was trying to fight me down here. Ministers of the 3 levels of government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm honored to be a part of this celebration this evening. First of all, I'd like to thank MLA Jamie Moses for bringing back emancipation to the forefront, which allows government of Manitoba to proclaim August 1 as Emancipation Day. An Emancipation Act bill was passed, E68. Did I get it right? Well, I did my research. It affords me to be like a child in a candy store as I research and ponder what emancipation means to me and to all of us. I have learned so much. I've been able to debunk so much of the myths I have learned over the years. It was a hard-fought battle by many. In the early days, which much credit was given to William Wilberforce of the British Parliament. Yes, he did fight against slavery in the colonies. But what we didn't know is how much our ancestors resisted and fought against slavery. The trauma they endured, the atrocities meted out to them, was the worst thing that could ever happen to a people. But we are resilient and have overcome in a lot of ways, although much more needs to be done. The struggle continues. Emancipation Day is a day of pride, proud of our heritage, proud of our Blackness, proud of our achievements, our inventors, our athletes, our politicians, our family and friends. Proud that we live in a country, despite some of its flaws, there is freedom, diversity, inclusion, peace, and harmony. Let's make Emancipation Day a daily affair. Lyndon Johnson said, "Until justice is blind to color, until education is unaware of race, until opportunity is unconcerned with the color of men's skin, Emancipation will be proclaimed, but not a fact. Let's prove that statement wrong. Let's make it a fact. Another quote I like is the one by Marcus Garvey and made popular by Bob Marley. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Let's free our mind of can'ts. We can achieve. All of us, all nations, together as one, we stand strong. Yes, we can. Education is very important. It is the light by which men can truly be free. That's another emancipation quote. Recently, I was at a function with the topic of emancipation, and the teacher told us about a young Black child who said he did not like the color of his skin. This is not an isolated case, as I have heard that before. So I say to our young Black girls and boys, merely by describing yourself as Black, you have started on the road towards emancipation. Emancipation means love yourself, stand up for your rights. Now I've lost my page. I think it might be here. Well, maybe I left it at home. And the end was really good. Let's celebrate. Let's respect each other. Respect yourselves, respect each other. And together we can work to eliminate racism, discrimination. Let's all work together. Manitoba, I know we can do it. Thank you.
I would now like to call upon another community leader who is an activist, a connector in the community, an immigration advocate, and always championing initiatives for those who need it. I would love to call upon a COMI president, Mrs. Titi Tijani.
Have all of your papers?
And also, I'm also a teacher, so we can always win. Good evening, everyone. Welcome all levels of government, all elected officials here, our friends, community members, all community leaders, and friends of Black people, friends of Manitoba, all of you. I welcome you and I thank you for being here. This is fantastic. Look at the room. I'm delighted to welcome you all on behalf to our first in-person Emancipation Day event. Last year it was virtual, so glad to see everyone, and hopefully we'll continue to do this in person. On behalf of the African Communities of Manitoba, Inc., Komi. Thank you all for making out time to join us this evening as we mark this important day. As you're most probably aware, ACOMI is the umbrella organization for people of African descent in Manitoba. We are committed to building a society, inclusive society by increasing access of marginalized communities, newcomers, low-income families, seniors, and young people to resources and life skills they need to live productive and healthy lives. Today's event, therefore, is in line with our program goal of supporting and strengthening the African, Black, and Caribbean communities to address, respond, and deal with systemic challenges such as racism, social exclusion, and inequality. Today's Emancipation Day event provides us a safe space to come together as a united community to have an open and frank conversations around racism and to reflect on the journey for liberation, the progress so far made, and the remaining barriers and obstacles to full emancipation. While we acknowledge that, we hope that this will galvanize us to intensify efforts to achieve the goals and objectives of the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent. We are committed to ensuring that Emancipation Day does not simply become an annual ritual, but a platform for advocating and working towards a more equitable, just, and inclusive society. While we acknowledge that there's a lot to reflect about the current trends of anti-Black racism, the growing inequalities, and different forms of discrimination that persist today, there is still a lot to celebrate about African culture and heritage. On our part, at the African communities of Manitoba, ACOMI, we will continue to promote and project the rich cultural heritage of people of African descent here in Manitoba. And that is why we invite you all to join us this Sunday for the opening of the Fokorama Africa Pavilion, to have a taste of the rich and diverse culture, music, art, dance, and food from the continent of Africa. It starts on Sunday. So, as we mark Emancipation Day, ACOMI invites other ethnocultural communities and equity-seeking organizations to partner with us to build a more inclusive society. I want to seize this opportunity to thank all our partners, the Black History Month Manitoba, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, our partners from the province of Saskatchewan, our dignitaries, government officials, and community leaders here present, and those that are joining us virtually, as well as Heritage Canada for supporting this event. Once again, I welcome you to this evening of reflections, community conversations, and fun. Thank you.
Next up, we have a teacher, a National Executive Director of the Canadian Multicultural Disability Center, an accessibility and disability advocate, who also founded the African Canadian Disability Community Association. I would like to call upon Dr. Zephania Matani. Oh, he's on his way. Okay, then we will proceed with a beautiful poetry reading. And I want to introduce this individual, who I believe is here. Yes, Cheta? Yes? Okay. Okay, I want to make sure. All right, so Cheta, Cheetah. Thank you for the correction. Oh, now Cheetah. Okay. Cheta. Yes. Cheta is a brand marketing specialist by day and an award-winning spoken word poet by night. She was crowned Slam Champion of the Black Label Poetry Slam in 2019 and received the Emily Dickinson Poetry Award in May 2022. Yes? In 2017, she also received the National Eutelsat, am I saying that right? Yes, Utelsat Star Award for Outstanding Young Writer in Nigeria. Please welcome. Oh, anyone in Toastmasters know you clap till they come to the podium. Yes, thank you.
Thank you kindly for the warm welcome. It is an understatement to say I'm thrilled to be here. It's a privilege to be able to do this tonight. The Canadian Museum of Human Rights is one of my favorite places in the city of Winnipeg. So as I celebrate my birthday today, today's my birthday. It's really a dream come true to be able to perform poetry at this event. And my poem tonight is titled Freedom is What We All See. Freedom is what we all see when we awake to the sun, shining in mockery of our sleepless nights, when we arise to the dawn of morning's majestic yawn, announcing another opportunity to make ends meet. When we head up to our venues of hospital with cups of coffee in our hands on our way to make our daily bread. When we gulp down breakfast as we go, having the understanding that there is really no break in this fast-paced world. Freedom is what we all see. Freedom of our hearts and freedom of our minds, emancipation. Freedom is what we all see when we put on goggles in scrutiny of political parties, or when we Google manifestos before an election, turn on the numbers to cast our votes on what we dare to believe is democracy and not monopoly in guise of good. We are all in pursuit of emancipation of sorts. Freedom is what we all see. Freedom of our hearts and freedom of our minds, emancipation. Freedom, 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 emancipation. Freedom is what we all seek, as it takes privilege to purchase liberty. It takes privilege to purchase liberty, to move freely, to speak our minds, to occupy our lands safely, to be treated with dignity, to be accepted in the community truly. Freedom is what we all seek. Emancipation. Freedom in our hearts and freedom in our minds. Emancipation. Freedom is what we all seek. Freedom is not just a piece of paper. Freedom is not just a piece of paper. Freedom transcends a policy. Freedom is practice of inclusivity and respect for diversity. Freedom does not handpick a convenient token, but invites us all to the table. Freedom does not trample on her neighbor in order to rise. Freedom is tolerance for one another's nuances. Freedom is a celebration like this of our strengths, a triumph over our weaknesses, unity. This is true emancipation because freedom is what we all seek. Freedom of our minds, and freedom in our hearts, emancipation. Oh, freedom. Yeah. Emancipation. Freedom is what we all seek. So may we not use the very shackles that we're losing off Black and Indigenous bond servants to bind up our minds. May we be filled with empathy. May we be filled with empathy for the emancipation of those who are less privileged. May we have quest for freedom, and may our quest for freedom never consume us to the point where it infringes on our neighbors' rights. And may our wrongs soften our hearts to make us realize that none of us is perfect. And in the end, freedom is what we all seek. Emancipation. Thank you.
It's her birthday, so we're singing happy birthday to her. Let's shout out. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Cheta. Cheta. Happy birthday.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, freedom is what we all see. That's going to stay in my head for a very long time. All right. I believe Dr. Zafania is here to provide us with some insights and his perspective. So please welcome Dr. Zafania.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When my sister Titi Tijani asked me that I'll talk for 3 minutes, I said, huh? How can you ask a storyteller to just talk for 3 minutes? But I'll try. My favorite musician, Yuma Sekela, used to sing a very popular music called Stimela. Guess what the Stimela means? Stimela. Stimela say goli. It means the train, which used to take people from Southern Africa as far as Zambia to go and work and die in the mines of South Africa. It reminds me the Stimela. We of different nature, which used to collect people from Nigeria, Ghana, in the form of ships. Every night when I think of slavery, imagine how young people, like some of you, were taken away forcibly from your parents, some were disabled. What happened to them the next day? Some of them just died of hunger and of natural death. So, thinking of the day of emancipation, August 1, 1834, is one of the greatest days people should try to. I will not celebrate it, but I'll commemorate it. Because history has a tendency of repeating itself and not acknowledging the human tragedy man has ever confronted. 400 years of subjugation, of treating another human being like it's nothing, is a very terrible thing. We will never forgive or forget those actions because it is not our right to forgive, because the only people who can forgive are the people who were enslaved and their descendants. So we have no right to forgive anybody. We thought emancipation was over. We had freedom. Little did we know that even emancipation led to racialization policies, which exist today. Profiling of Black people by the police, by the system. It never ends, lest we forget. We sing freedom, freedom for what? We have inequality in access to resources, inequality. We have another form of slavery taking place in our own eyes, but we don't want to admit the greatest, the tragedy of mankind that always reflect that we did wrong after it's done. We have people forced by the situations to come to the Western countries in which their countries have been deliberately destroyed, economically disenfranchised, and come here to forced work as taxi drivers when they have qualifications, doctors, computer science, suffering the same slavery. How are we going to overcome this? Ladies and gentlemen, let us not be blinded by this kind of freedom. Yes, we want. Yes, we can talk what we want. Yes, we can vote. Yes, we can do all these things. But beyond that, in the corridors of power, we are not there. Decisions are made on our behalf. We are never at the table. The problem, where are you in the house? Are you in the kitchen or are you in the bedroom? We don't know where we are. Ladies and gentlemen, struggle continues, aluta continua, don't give up, freedom will come, freedom is not yet here. Uhuru, thank you, Nelson Mandela, and thank you all those great African leaders. Freedom will continue forever. Aluta continua, and I remember Sambora Machel as well. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Tonight we're commemorating versus celebrating. I like that. That touches my heart. Anyone else? Yes, yes. Okay. I want to make sure we continue on because we are having some performances soon. But before we get to that, we have some other community members, government officials who are in the room. So before I get to the individuals who will be coming up to speak, I would just like the elected officials and other community leaders who are attending to just stand and give everyone a wave, please. Those of you who aren't coming up to speak, of course. Yeah, hello, thank you. Hi, hi. Yes, oh, hello, yes, yes, there we go. Yeah. Good, good. Yes, everybody, yes. Awesome, wonderful. Okay. So I would like to call upon our first government official who will come to bring us greetings today, Terry DeWitt. I'm gonna get my pronunciations right today. MP of Winnipeg South. Come on.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to join you on Treaty 1 territory, the homeland of the Red River Métis, and I'm joined by my Liberal colleagues, Leader Dougal Lamont and Rana Bokhari. There's many other elected officials here that I'm sure will be introduced in due course, but it's just wonderful to see this vibrant crowd out tonight here at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, where people come from around the world to learn about the great struggles for human rights, to hear the stories of the heroes of human rights throughout history, those who showed the way, and those who sacrificed their very lives for the purpose of advancing human rights. And one of those chapters in the human rights journey we are celebrating tonight, Emancipation Day. And so many thanks to Comey and their leadership through Titi Tijani and others, and Black History Manitoba, my friend Mavis, and I'll be at the celebration tomorrow of Jamaican culture and independence. And And thank you both for helping us mark the second anniversary of the federally recognized Emancipation Day. And as I said to another Emancipation Day gathering on Emancipation Day, August 1st, you know, you have in this business of politics, it is a life of discomfort sometimes. There's lots of ups and downs, as I think you can imagine. But there are some very, very special moments in the life of an elected official, rare moments where people come together, moments of unity. I remember those moments when Malala came to speak to us in the Parliament of Canada and was awarded honorary citizenship. Of course, Nelson Mandela, I wasn't there at that one, I wish I had been. But also President Obama gave an address that was incredibly inspiring. And I can say I had one of those moments on March 24th, 2021, when motion M36, which was a private member's bill, was brought forward and Parliament stood in unity to officially recognize Emancipation Day, and it was passed unanimously in the House of Commons. You could hear a pin drop, and it was quite a moment. It was an emotional moment, particularly for our Black MPs and senators who were gathered together. It was a historic moment that called us to remember our shared history, some of the dark chapters of our colonial past. And while Majid Johari, an Iranian Canadian from Toronto, brought M36 forward, we need to give special recognition to people like Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard from Nova Scotia, the descendant of slaves whose family has been in Canada for over 300 years, who for years tirelessly advocated to officially recognize Emancipation Day. And Senator Bernard and the Black Parliamentary Caucus and their allies, including Prime Minister Trudeau, all acknowledge while we are making progress, as so many speakers have mentioned tonight, full emancipation is not a reality. We know systemic racism exists throughout our government systems and society, in employment, in housing, in healthcare, particularly in the justice system. Systemic racism is something and a reality that many Black and Indigenous Canadians live with today. I wasn't sure I was going to mention this, but it was particularly just a heart-wrenching moment. This was back in the winter when the occupation was happening in Ottawa. We saw Confederate flags, we saw Nazi symbols, symbols of hate, which have no place in our society. And so we know there is so much more work to do in stamping out racism and discrimination when it rears its ugly head. And just one final comment, if I could, I want to give a big shout out to Comey for all the great work you do in working with our newcomers and keeping our young people in touch with their culture. I'm looking forward to the African Pavilion. You've sometimes got me on the dance floor. I hope not this year because I'm out of practice. And I'm very much looking forward to working with you to achieve your dream of an African center and housing complex so that we can keep our African culture connected. So thank you for inviting me tonight. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. I would now like to call our Minister of Health, who has known me since I was little bit. This big, right? Please welcome Audrey Gordon.
Since she was a little bit, her father sang at my wedding. And July 20th, we celebrated our it was 37 years of marriage. So if her father sings at your wedding, you're good to go. Good evening, everyone, to all the members of the various legislatures and city council. Good evening to the leaders of ethnocultural organizations, clergy, distinguished guests. I'm Audrey Gordon, and as I was introduced, I'm the Minister of Health. And it is my pleasure to be here today on behalf of Premier Heather Stephenson and all my colleagues in the Manitoba Legislature. I would like to take the opportunity to myself acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory and in the homeland of the Métis Nation. I'm so deeply honored to participate in this year's Emancipation Day celebration. And as Natalie mentioned and others, this is our first in-person. Last year, I think it was virtual, right, Jamie? So don't hesitate to hug your health minister. On this momentous day, we mark the 188th anniversary of the Slavery Abolition Act and the second anniversary of Canada's designation of August 1st as Emancipation Day. Emancipation was the catalyst for many independence movements across the Caribbean. It was the result of the collective struggle of Caribbean peoples' fight for basic human rights. As a Jamaican-born Manitoban and our province's first Black cabinet minister, I recognize the significance of this achievement and this day for our entire community. Thank you. Speaking to you in this space dedicated to the preservation and promotion of human rights is particularly meaningful, as many of the exhibits here demonstrate that freedom can be fragile. For every hard-won achievement in one part of the world, there may be repression in another. The progress of humanity is often not a straight line. In commemorating Emancipation Day, we are reminded that the advancement of human rights is a constant work in progress. Emancipation Day is not only a day to remember the difficulties of the past, it is a call to action. As a society, we have a responsibility to use this platform to discuss the history of slavery. In doing so, we create opportunities to honor the many acts of resistance and resilience of those who were forcibly taken from their homelands, while celebrating the achievements of their descendants in communities around the world. Manitoba's identity has been shaped by its diversity. Our province is home to Black, African, and Caribbean diasporas from across the globe. Each community has contributed significantly to our shared culture, economy, and civic society. The diverse perspectives that brings to our province's multiculturalism communities is a constant source of innovation, growth, and pride. I arrived here as a child. I was 5 years old, and I have made Winnipeg, Manitoba my home since. And I've experienced the benefits of Manitoba's multicultural identity. At one time, I sat in the chair as the multiculturalism director and worked with over 250 ethnocultural organizations, and we have done an amazing job. And I want to say to anyone who is new to Manitoba, because there may be newcomers here that are celebrating with us, that you will find community here in our province. Organizations such as the African Communities of Manitoba, Inc., the Jamaican Association of Manitoba, and Black History Manitoba ensure that newcomers have support and that the rich history of the Black diaspora is shared with all Manitobans. And if you're not aware, the Jamaican Association has a newcomer welcome session for all those who've been here for 5 years or less. And it is a great time at the Jamaican Association Hall. So if that is one of you, please come out and enjoy that. So for all that you do, to all the groups I mentioned, for the people of Manitoba, I thank you. Enjoy the evening. Merci, miigwech.
Okay, at this time, we
have a video greeting from MP Matthew Green in Hamilton, MLA Susie Hanson in Halifax, and MLA David Shepherd in Edmonton. While the video is loading, I just want to take some of the comments that have been made so far from the folks who have been up here. And it's funny, we talk about discomfort, right? And many of us who are Black, we feel that all the time. In many different ways, subtle ways even. Anyone heard of the term microaggression? Yes. Oh, Natalie, how did your hair go from so short to so long overnight? That head wrap, why are you wearing that? When you came to the office, you didn't sound like that on the phone. Right? There's many of these things. These things happen to this day. And I will tell you, as a senior HR professional for 23 years, yes, 23. I can tell you I've seen it all. I've had people who I'm supposed to advocate for, they're employees, and they don't want me to be their HR representative because I'm. Imagine this. Imagine this. This is my job, my livelihood. I'm here. I'm educated in this field, and I'm here to help you. But because of the color of my skin, you do not want me to help you. The color of my skin. Nothing else. I didn't swear at them. I didn't do anything. I wasn't making gestures. Nothing. The color of my skin. This is what we're here to talk about today. This is what we're here to celebrate and commemorate today. But it's still happening. We have work to do. And it starts with every single person in this room who isn't Black. And why do I say that? I say that because we have given our labor. We need you to step up for us. In workplace, in neighborhood, in community, in the grocery store, okay? Because we have experienced exhaustion from this. It is traumatic and tiring to be Black most days. So we need you all to step up for us, okay? Promise? People swear? Okay. Yes? All right, here are our out-of-town MPs and MPs.
Greetings from Hamilton Center. My name is Matthew Green. I'm a very proud member of Parliament. Coming to you virtually. Super excited to share with you your celebrations on the first official Emancipation Day there in Winnipeg. I understand you're all gathered at the Human Rights Museum. What an appropriate place for this celebration. I want to give a special acknowledgement to my dear friend and your MLA for St. Vital, Jamie Moses, for successfully and such an important opportunity for Canadians to reflect on our history as abolitionists in the struggle against the exactitudes of the North American slave trade. I'm proud to say that as a descendant of freedom seekers myself, going back generations, that our contribution in this country go from even before the country's foundation, which is why this and everything to gather and to celebrate Black liberation and to understand the struggles of the past have resulted in the freedoms of our present is such a vitally important thing. I want to thank all the incredible volunteers who came together out there in Winnipeg to make this happen. And know that in solidarity across the country, these celebrations are happening officially in many ways for the first time, both federally and provincially. But from those of you who are from the African Canadian diaspora, you will know that our celebrations in this regard have happened since the very day that this declaration was signed. So in close, I hope you have an incredible day. I hope you enjoy the festivities. I hope you have a chance to learn and share and recommit to the abolitionist spirit that is alive and well in Canada and continue along the pathroads to Black liberation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Halifax, Nova Scotia. My name is Susie Hanson, and I'm the MLA for Halifax Native, and I'm going to be here to speak to you about Emancipation Day. Emancipation Day is a day when the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 became law across the British Empire, including Canada on August 1st, 1830. On this day, the practice of slavery officially ended for millions of African people and their descendants in Canada and around the world. On March 24, 2021, members of Parliament unanimously voted to designate August 1st as Emancipation Day in Canada. On April 13, 2021, the province of Nova Scotia followed the federal declaration by officially introducing legislation to annually recognize August 1st as Emancipation Day, the anniversary of the abolition of slavery in the British Empire in Nova Scotia. Emancipation Day is an opportunity to learn more about the history of African Nova Scotian people and the communities around it, and to continue to address and eradicate systemic anti-Black racism. It allows us as a community to reflect and acknowledge our shared history of the enslavement of the people of African descent in Canada, and those are our ancestors here. Also provides us with an opportunity to maintain ongoing meaningful dialogue around race relations and inclusive societies, and allows every citizen to begin to take action. We must never forget the struggle that our ancestors had to go through in order to get us to where we are today. And I'm truly grateful to bring you greetings from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Take care, everyone.
Hey folks, I'm David Shipman, MLA for Edmonton Cities. It's my honor to join you all today for the first official celebration of Emancipation Day. You know, Black history in Canada runs deep, far deeper than has traditionally been written. Indeed, I know that in all of my years of school, I never had the opportunity to learn about the rich, diverse history and accomplishments of the many thousands of Black men and women who made great contributions to families across the country. And similarly, there remains a great gap in our collective awareness Black Canadians have faced and continue to face in their struggle to be treated as full and equal citizens. Or the fact that in Canada, as in many parts of the world, that struggle began in the colonial practice of slavery. And here in Canada, the path to freedom began with the Act of Emancipation. So I want to give a big shout out to MLA Moses and all of you in the Black community in Manitoba for your work to bring forward and win support for the Emancipation Day. Because if we want to build a better future, we must remember and be honest about our lives. As we continue to fight to end all racism and discrimination overt and systemic, sadly in the face of some who for trend. Celebrations, recognitions like this provide an opportunity to stand together to affirm our place here, all that we have accomplished, the pride we can take in that, and the work left to do to fully realize the promise of true freedom, equity, and equality first made with the abolition of slavery. So on behalf of myself, all of the Black community here in Alberta, and my colleagues in the Alberta NDP caucus, have a happy, wonderful Emancipation Day.
Greetings from Hamilton Center. My name is Matthew.
No, not your turn. I would now like to call upon Deputy Mayor Marcus Chambers.
Wow. Just before I start, is there a cardiologist in the room? I'm experiencing something called a full heart. I'm seeing everybody here in this room. And I know that you're here tonight because you want to be, and not because our Blue Bombers won last night. Before I begin, I want to just acknowledge my council colleagues, Councillor Gillingham, Councillor Lutz, and Councillor Schreier, who have joined us here tonight. Round of applause. I want to thank Black History Manitoba for inviting me to bring greetings on behalf of the city at the annual Emancipation Day, acknowledging the Day of Freedom. Canadians can ill afford to forget Canada's history in slavery. This is a truth that has now been recognized by the members of Canada's Parliament, who have officially designated August 1st as Emancipation Day, as it was on that day in 1834 that the British government abolished slavery from across the British Empire. I've spoken to people who maintain that Canada did not practice slavery as Canada became a nation on 1867. But hear me. The fact remains, people were enslaved on this soil, full stop. This is a point that we must acknowledge if we are to heal relationships and embrace full inclusion of all cultures and races. On May 24th, as I mentioned, 2021, the House of Commons unanimously passed and declared August 1st as Emancipation Day. And I have high hopes that it will become more than just a political gesture, as I believe it's a start towards an official recognition that slavery was actually practiced here in Canada. And descendants of those enslaved hope there's real change when it comes to racism that still is existence in today's modern context. While there has been an aim to focus on the stories of triumph, such as the Underground Railway that brought hundreds of enslaved families and individuals to Canada for their first taste of freedom, or the many Blacks that fled from the United States into Western Canada, we must still acknowledge the role that Canada in its early days played in slavery. Here in North America, we are taking actions to recognize the harms of our Indigenous and Black communities. True reconciliation can only take place through the acknowledgement of our past, face-to-face, and a commitment to learn about it, to understand it, to confront it, and to renew efforts to address the inequities and foster real inclusion. Canada is learning about its own dark chapter in history that are without a colonialist lens and a clearer understanding of its own role in colonialism, residential schools, slavery, and other atrocities that can and are referred to as cultural genocides. Moving forward, we must be willing to confront our history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We must find ways to build relationships and fully acknowledge and respect the vast economic, education, spiritual, and cultural contributions of our Black community. As a Black community, we must also remember to emancipate our minds, allowing us to grow and continue to contribute in limitless ways where we have been prohibited in the past. We must go from having masters to earning master's degrees and taking stewardship of our lives. We must go from the back seat of police cars to the front seat of police cars and lead transformational change and systemic change in policing. This is a testament to our resiliency as a people, to what we've endured and how we will overcome. On behalf of His Worship, Mayor Brian Bowman, and my colleagues on City Council, and indeed the City of Winnipeg, I thank you all for this valued opportunity towards enhancing the quality of life here in the City of Winnipeg and throughout the province of Manitoba. Thank you all so much. It is a blessing to see you all here tonight. Thank you, merci, and good luck. Before I leave this program, we raised the flag of Jamaica today at City Hall. I was so proud to do that. If I'm going to as the acting deputy mayor for the city, it meant a lot to me. Tomorrow night, as we celebrate Emancipation Day, please drive by the forts. The Winnipeg sign will be lit up in green and yellow, commemorating the 60th anniversary of Emancipation. Thank you.
Thank you. I call you Mr. Chambers, is that gonna sound weird? Anywho, okay, we have a couple more greetings and then we will get to our performances. I would like to call upon Constable Dale McDonald, who is the Winnipeg Police Services Diversity Unit.
Take this off because my twist out's gonna. She mentioned earlier about the hair thing. So good evening, everyone. Mike, can you hear me? No. Broken. Right there. Is that better? All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Winnipeg Police Service, I want to acknowledge that we live and work on Treaty 1 territory, homeland of the Métis people. We acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake Quarry First Nation. Hello, my name is Dale McDonald, Constable with the Winnipeg Police Service. I'd like to thank you for having me here tonight to speak. This is my first Emancipation Celebration here in Winnipeg. It is a great honor, particularly my families from Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain, West Indies. I'm first generation Canadian. I'd like to thank and extend my deepest gratitude to Black History President Mavis McLaren, African Community President Tijani, and all the members who are putting together this year's Emancipation event, celebration event. I'd also like to thank Nadia Thompson for the invitation to the event, the Human Rights Museum and committee members for this beautiful space we are gathered here today. I'd like to acknowledge our special guests. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. Ms. Audrey Gordon, Deputy Mayor Marcus Chambers, Terry Duguid, MP for Winnipeg South, members of the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, Dr. Savannah Montenga, the Jamaican Association of Manitoba, and all the speakers and guests in attendance. And if I missed anyone, I apologize. So if you know anything about Trinidadians, we can run in Trini time. Except my father, who's early for everything. I don't know where he got that from. And also we talk very fast and we can be long-winded. But with that, my speech, I'm going to try to make it brief. I'm probably just going to tell you guys a little bit about myself and my family. So in 1956, my uncle Ralph Wiltshire left Trinidad, immigrated to Winnipeg, and attended the University of Manitoba. In 1969, my father Arnott followed his eldest brother here to Winnipeg. My mother and brother soon followed. I was 4 months old when my brother and I went back to Trinidad with his family members. My father attempted to secure full-time employment and a place to live. So in 1976, my brother and I returned. My father, a newly single father, found a place to live in Manitoba housing. He received full-time employment with the Canadian National Railway. Over the years, I learned to adapt to the cold Winnipeg winters. I said adapt, not love. My father said, blame your Uncle Ralph, he's the first one to come to Canada and the first one here to settle in Winnipeg. I learned that my Uncle Ralph worked as a porter on the railway during his breaks in university. I didn't really understand his significance at the time, as his role as a porter, until last year I had the opportunity to work security on the set of the CBC and BET original series, The Porters.
Right here in Winnipeg.
I began to read about the history about the Porters. I learned of their hardship and the racism through the years. I admit, I still have a lot to learn and understand about our Black Canadian history. Growing up, I too experienced hardships and racism. However, I learned to become resilient and keep moving forward. I attended my first Emancipation Celebration in Trinidad 2016 with my children, my grandmother, and other relatives. Experiencing this event left me with great sense of pride, joy, and belonging, something that I've never always felt. In 1988, the Winnipeg Police Department hired its first Black female officer, Monica Stubbs. It wasn't until 6 years later, the Winnipeg Police Service hired their second Black female officer. This was in 1994, when I started my career with the Winnipeg Police Service. Monica opened the door for other Black women, and I'll always be grateful for the ones who were our first. And I know there's a lot of firsts in this room as well, so thank you. Speaking of first, I would like to acknowledge another trailblazer, our former Chief of Police, Devon Clunas. Devon was the first Black Chief of Police in Canada and the first Black Chief of Police in the Winnipeg Police Service. In my 28 years of experience with the service, yes, I said 28, I believe it's important that all workforces reflect the community it serves. I'm currently assigned to the Community Support Division, Diversity and Crime Prevention Section. My role is to work with the members of our city's diverse communities, providing information, awareness, and awareness on various safety issues, and create partnerships which encourage positive policing community relationships. Our unit also assists the City of Winnipeg with recruitment and initiatives for hiring and promoting a more diverse workplace. One of my other responsibilities as a police officer is to bring awareness on the Black community to our newly hired cadets and our recruits. In this presentation, I share my experiences, struggles, and achievements while being a member of the Black community, as well as being a Black police officer. I know what this uniform sometimes represents, sometimes I'm ashamed of, but I am doing what I love and representing our community. I got this. I feel sharing our own personal experiences empower and humanize us. Collaboration and continued education greatly impact our community. It creates a greater understanding, empathy, and brings positive change. Change, although slow, it's happening. And I'm happy to be part of our history and a witness to all the firsts. Soon I'll be one of many. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words, your transparency, being candid with us. It is not an easy thing to do. And our final reading before we get to our dance and performance and team and other people. Don't worry, there's other speakers. Sorry. I would like to call upon Ms. Natasha Mohammed, who is from Heritage Canada Anti-Racism Secretariat.
You go back to what you know until you change what you know. So much of what has been shared here tonight already reminded me of that statement and how critical gatherings such as this are to changing what we know and to creating a situation where no one can again say, I didn't know.
My name is Natasha Mohammed, and I'm honored to be here on behalf of the Government of Canada, the Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat, joining you on the unceded territories and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We are proud, so proud to have supported Akami in hosting this wonderful celebration of Emancipation Day as part of a series, actually, of Emancipation Day celebrations that we're helping to support in Halifax, Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, Yellowknife, and Vancouver. Literally every region of the country. Je vous remercie d'être ici aujourd'hui. Today we join our sisters, our brothers, non-binary folks from coast to coast to coast in marking the Slavery Abolition Act, which was implemented, as we've heard. I think it's so important to hear that date over and over again, August 1st, 1834, leading to the freedom of enslaved peoples throughout British North America, including Canada. Despite the abolition of slavery 188 years ago, almost 2 centuries, the era cemented a legacy of anti-Black racism and discrimination that still prevails to this day, and it's entrenched in our institutions, our policies, and the practices of our society. Black communities across Canada continue to face ongoing prejudice, discrimination, and anti-Black hate that limit their full and equal participation in society. As we've seen, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has only further highlighted the social, health, and economic disparities that undermine the livelihoods of many historically disadvantaged populations in Canada, including peoples of African descent. The Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat at the Department of Canadian Heritage is working tirelessly to assist federal departments to remove systemic racism, racial discrimination, and biases from the policies of the Government of Canada. This entails combating systemic anti-Black racism and discrimination and helping to advance the International Decade for People of African Descent, which the Government of Canada officially recognized in 2018. The Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat is striving to be a federal hub, a convener, and a catalyst that works with you to identify systemic injustices. We believe in this saying, nothing about us without us is for us. So we want to help create transformative policies designed by and for Black, racialized, religious, minority communities, and Indigenous peoples, and that deliver lasting, meaningful change. We know there's still so much more work to do and to be done, and we commit to doing that work with communities. But today, we've come to join you, my colleague Tahani and myself, in celebrating Black resistance, Black strength, and Black beauty. We have come to mark the tremendous strides that Black communities have here in Manitoba and across the country continue to trailblaze despite the many obstacles that remain in the path. We recognize that you are creating spaces and opportunities for us to all reflect, learn, engage, disrupt, that's the important word, disrupt, and transform, both as individuals and as a collective in the ongoing fight against systemic anti-Black racism, discrimination, and hate. For that, we give thanks. Votre travail est remarquable. Merci. On behalf of the team at the Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat, I'd like to congratulate the organizers of Emancipation Day for your event and your dedication. And we look forward to continued collaboration. That's
Okay, so we're about to get into a performance, a dance performance that's going to happen right about here, okay? But what I would like everyone to do, just if you are able again, we've been sitting for some time, just stand up and let's have a stretch. Let's have a stretch. Stand up. Oh, hands up. Reach to the sky and bring them down. And again, bring them up. Yes, and bring them down. And we're going to take our head and we're going to go around in a circle. Yes. Get that neck stretched out. Yes, yes, yes. Do we want to do that exercises? I can go all day. No. No excuses for this. Okay. Yes, just shake it out. Everybody just shake it out. Shake it out. All right. think we are almost ready. Almost ready. You may be seated if you so choose, unless you want to wait till the dancers are up on the stage here. Oh, yes. Okay. Everybody wants to participate. We are ready for our dance performance by the one and only Jamaican Association dancers. Please welcome them. you there was going to be hot foot tonight. Woo! This reminds me of back in the day. I know there's many people in this room who remember those dances and those moves, yes? And here we are in 2022 with the youth doing them. That is significant. That is important. That's what we need to keep doing for our community. Yes? Okay. All right, now we're going to have a little bit of storytelling. So this next individual is a seasoned graphic design professional and educator. And he leads community development training and builds capacity through professional design seminars around the world. And he's going to tell us a story about how it began and having us all think about an awareness-based approach to reconciliation. And so please welcome Shaylin O'Leary.
So you did not know. You don't know when it began. Well, I'm here to tell you a story. But it was not a story. It happened. There I was, sleeping on my mat on the floor in my hut. Well, I wouldn't say I was a perfect person, because the day before, we had just come back from a rape where we took a few people. And here I was, waking up to see 6 spears pointed at my chest. I tried to reach for my amulet to get strength, but the spear held me. I could not move. The next thing I know, I'm walking over my guards. One of them had been killed. And I stood there and looked, is this really happening? We were captured, held in packets, barracoons. Before you knew it, I had shackles, legs, arms, neck restrained. I could do nothing. I could not move. We were taken. Now you would think that the day before, I was this valiant warrior that could take anyone from any tribe. And the table turned, and here I was, a captive in my own land. I looked over my shoulder and I saw Coco. He was the one who betrayed us. He took money. I could see him getting a bag from one of the Portuguese. And now, me, my people, and the people that I was protecting, and of course the people taken. We're all in the same place. We were all captured, enslaved. We're taken to the coast. And for the first time, I saw the waters of the Atlantic. I had never traveled that far before. What am I doing here? There were slave merchants all over the place. There was a chief sitting on his throne, selling his own people. I looked over my shoulder again, and I saw Coco with the Portuguese, having fun at our expense. We were made to cross the little lagoon to the island, to the point of no return. When you get to that point, you never came back. I did not know that. And we were put on little boats and transported to bigger boats. We were traded like goods. They said they came to buy things, but now they were buying people. And here we were, among those who had been sold. When we got on the ships, we were packed like goods. They were good packing goods. They were not good at packing people. Head to feet, head to feet, head to feet. That is how we were put on this boat. And never saw our homeland again. We were shipped far away to distant places. Places that looked like where we came from, but was not. Places that smelled like the places we came from in the tropics, but we were restrained, we had no freedom, we were shackled. We could go nowhere. And then one day, they took us out after force feeding us. Some of us who resisted, like Ajani, he tried to get away, but they threw him into the water with weights so that he could not swim back. That was what we saw. And then we were taken and displayed, cleaned up, ready for sale. And people came from far and wide to come and see us in this clothing after we were inspected and advertised. They put us in clothing to make us feel we were, but we were not. We had been whipped, we had been flogged, we had been restrained, and we had been told to make one move. That would be the end. And that was it. And this continued for many years. They took slaves, and for many years, the ships left the shores of Africa and went to Brazil, to the Caribbean, to the United States. And of course, some ended up here in Canada. We are all part of it. But today, what have we come to? This is where it all started. My people, regardless of what color you are today, and I now change my persona to Sheikh Mohammed, the presenter, and I share this and hand over this to talk to you about what happened. If we do not remember what happened before, gets to forgiveness and reconciliation. We were freed, but we're not truly free. We all know that. We've heard the speakers. One of the things that happened in my journey is to experience for one person several centuries and several stories. And that is what I've shared with you tonight. It wasn't just me that experienced that. It was several people. And I've shared those stories by bringing them all together. But I would like to say a couple of words before I leave to give us a path forward. Once more, we're here, and I acknowledge standing on grounds that we're inhabited by people all we all are. We cannot deny it. I'm thrilled to be here for this first celebration here in Manitoba for Emancipation. But there are some things that we need to walk away with, not just the study, not just the celebration, but everything. This has to change. 3 things I want to talk to you about this evening. 1, the healing of generational trauma caused by slavery. I was born and raised in Nigeria and knew about slavery, but not enough to impact my worldview. Only after arriving in Canada did I learn about the history and impact of slavery here in Canada. It's only now that I have a better understanding of the role of our homeland tribes, and I own that with my ancestors. In the larger narrative of slavery, we participated. Families were torn apart. Social and economic growth was truncated. People were brutalized and very often killed. Setting aside a day to learn and understand the history of slavery and how it plays into our current struggles for equality is crucial. The second point I want to offer, Canada prides itself as a multicultural country. Manitoba promotes itself as friendly Manitoba. It's the spirit of multiculturalism and friendship, and Emancipation Day creates a space for us to come and learn, to share, to have a new path towards full reconciliation. The third point, that broader path to reconciliation. We must acknowledge that in our collective past, we did so many things out of ignorance. We must acknowledge that. Now that we know better, let us accept our mistakes. Let us accept our misdeeds as misdeeds in the spirit of reconciliation. Let us purposefully create a better Manitoba for future generations. We must participate in reconciliation at this level. Slavery is not over. Human trafficking today is a form of slavery. Injustices against Indigenous peoples around the world is not over yet. Graves of missing children are still being uncovered. Indigenous women still go missing. The oppression of people based on the color of their skin is still ongoing. And back in homeland Africa, class-based oppression and injustice continues to this day. We can. A couple of years ago, Judge Floyd was just another name. Today, the events surrounding his death woke up the world. Canada woke up. Manitoba woke. Many new regulatory funded programs today benefit us more than at any time in history. So everyone is doing their part. But my friend, may I end my talk by introducing a concept to you. It's called Igba. This is Yoruba. Igba is time, a period. Aimo is not knowing or ignorance or lack of awareness or lack of knowledge. It is an acknowledgement that things that were done may have been wrong, but Igba Aimo refers to a time in the past when we did not know enough to make the right decisions. Those who raided, those who sold, those who fought, and those who enslaved. We all would not do it today, no, would we? No. So, because we were ignorant at that time, we have to understand that this is the time for us to come into a new place of knowledge. Now that we know, we have an opportunity to do it right. Igba Aimo opens the door to conversation, to forgiveness, and ultimately reconciliation with one another and with all creation. This is a challenge, it's an active thing. Today, I end with this. We know what we know. Tomorrow, we shall know more. And then we shall do more. we shall do more good and live better lives. And one day we shall be at peace with one another and with all creation. That time will come. And I am deeply thankful we are all in this journey together. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Shagun. I don't know about you, not just from his speaking and how he tells his story, but those images. It's emotional because those are our ancestors, those are the people who came before us. They suffered so much so we can.
So thank you, Shagun, for sharing that. It's so important. It's not about the celebration, the performance,
And all those things. It is about that. Recognizing that history. Things I never saw in school, ever. Thank you.
Whew. Okay. Nadia.
Where's Nadia? Oh. Wait. Will we be seeing the video greeting? Yes. Okay. All right. So we have a video greeting from Rosemary Sadler, who is the author of the children's book of Canadian Black History. And then we will say hello to Ms.
Hello, I'm Rosemary Sadler. Let me begin by offering my deepest congratulations to MLA Jamie Moses on the efforts he has been making in Manitoba to fight for a more equitable society. I am the person who has championed both February as Black History Month at every level of government and August 1st as Emancipation Day. So in the process of effecting both of these commemorations, the City of Toronto, the Province of Ontario, all of the provinces, and nationally, of course, for both Black History Month and Emancipation Day, I would like to think that my trailblazing efforts have made the work of people like Deputy Mayor Marcus Chambers, Jamie Moses, Uzoma Azaguara, and Audrey Borden, as well as Black History Manitoba and African Communities Manitoba Incorporated, a little bit easier because the way has been cleared, at least in part. This is not my first Emancipation Day. In fact, I am now the namesake for a National Freedom Award given out on the CBC National Free Up event, which you have seen. The Rosemary Sadler Freedom Award affirms my advocacy and hopefully will inspire future advocates. I am delighted that this, your first celebration of freedom at the end of slavery, Emancipation Day, is going to be held at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. This facility is one of my most favorite institutions in the country. It's a symbol of our painful history and of the hope that knowing about our history can also provide. It's the freedom that the porters so ably portrayed in the recent televised series shot in Winnipeg knew all about. It's the freedom that the late Jerry Atwell knew for the arts. It's the potential for what we can become if we work together, learn about each other, and acknowledge the truth of our histories. Emancipation Day means commemorating the harms of the transatlantic slave trade, of slavery, and celebrating our efforts to take action in the current continuing pursuit of justice and anti-racism. Each generation has the job of defining and defending freedom, to ensure we keep moving forward, to make sure coming generations can build on what we have carved out for them. All the best to you and your celebrations. And remember, freedom is freedom. And we all have to keep working at making sure we have it. Happy Emancipation Day.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. All right. Man of the hours, I should say. Hour. Jamie Moses was born in Winnipeg and is a graduate of a recent collegiate. He holds a bachelor in agribusiness from the University of Manitoba. He is an athlete and a former Manitoba AAA provincial male athlete of the year. Currently holds the Winnipeg High School Football League record for the most receiving yards in a game. Take that, Blue Bombers. Okay. He also played football for the Bisons, and prior to his political career, he worked at Investors Group, technology company Rapid RTC, and the Canadian Peace Corps. In the 2019 Manitoba general election, Jamie was elected, say your last name, was elected to represent the St. Vital electoral district. Jamie, alongside Uzoma, who is here, I see you, and Audrey Gordon, is one of the first 3 Black Canadian MLAs elected in Manitoba. Amazing. And in October 2021, Jamie introduced Private Members Bill 232 that recognizes August 1st of every year as Emancipation Day in Manitoba, which marks the day the Slavery Abolition Act took effect in the British Empire in 1854. The bill was unanimously passed by the legislature as the Emancipation Day Act. And I would love for all of you to give a warm round of applause. Welcome to
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? What an evening we've had so far, hasn't it been? Between the performances, the stories, the art, the poetry, I think we've all experienced a lot. It's been an emotional evening, hasn't it been?
Yeah.
Well, I'll begin by wishing you all a very happy Emancipation Day. It's the first one we're recognizing officially here in Manitoba. So I just want to begin by thanking the organizers of the event today. Comey, thank you so much, Titi, for your words. Miss Mavis McLaren, I'm so grateful that I'm here with you and Black History Manitoba for organizing today. I'm thankful for the Canadian Museum for Human Rights for hosting us and letting us use the space. For those who brought greetings, Councillor Chamber, MP Duguid, Minister Gordon, thank you so much for your words. Thank you for the video tributes to give us a perspective of what emancipation is like across the country. Rosemary Sadler, who we just heard from, MLA Hanson, MLA Shepherd, and MP Matt Green. I'm also just grateful for the performances, as I said, we had earlier, because as we know about freedom, a lot of that expression of hope that comes from freedom is often expressed through our arts and through our music, and through song. And so I'm thankful for the music and poetry we've had so far today, and that we'll have and enjoy afterwards as well. Thank you to those who are watching online. I appreciate you for hanging in for us, and I hope you're enjoying this at home as well. I also want to give a special thank you to my legislative colleagues, both ones who are here and the ones who couldn't be here tonight. You know, when I introduced the Emancipation Day Act here in Manitoba, to be honest, I wasn't sure how it would go. But fortunately, the same way emancipation united Canada around the idea that people should be free, the same way our legislature was united and passed the bill unanimously. Absolutely. So thank you for this time. I see my colleague, MLA Asaguera. Thank you so much for being here. My colleague, Mr. Gordon, as well as Mr. Lamont, my colleague as well from the legislature, for working to make sure that this bill passed. So as I said at this top, quite frankly, it doesn't get said enough. I'll say it again. Happy Emancipation Day. And we all know Emancipation Day is about freedom. We know Emancipation Day recognizes the abolition of slavery across the British Empire, including Canada. It happened on August 1st, 1834. But in reality, that didn't free everybody. It didn't. The Slavery Abolition Act that received royal assent on August 28, 1833, allowed for slaves under the age of 6 to be free. It's true, under the age of 6. If you were a slave older than 6, you would have been forced into an apprenticeship. And that apprenticeship would have continued until it was gradually phased out between 1838 and 1840. Now, just to put some context on that, I've got 2 little kids. They're amazing, brilliant, innocent kids. They're 4 and 6 years old. You know, this summer has been beautiful in Manitoba, and we spent the summer playing, you know, as kids do, trampolining, swimming, having fun, the way innocent kids do. But with this bill passed, my 4-year-old would have been free. My 6-year-old would have had another 6 years of forced apprenticeship. Can you imagine that? For those kids here, think about yourself at that age. For those parents here, think about your kids at that age. That's a really sobering thought. But my question is, as we back up from that, is to ask ourselves, why are we celebrating this 188 years after Emancipation Day happened? Why are we celebrating this now? And I'll tell you, it's because that journey toward freedom, the fight for freedom through emancipation, is not just a one-time thing. Emancipation is not just a one-time event or achievement. I mean, it certainly belongs in our history books, but it is not resigned, and it cannot be resigned to stay there. The freedom of Emancipation Day calls out to live through our actions. I'll talk more about that, but first, let me tell you a couple of stories about some abolitionists who've had impacts in Canada. I'll share a story about Thornton Blackburn. He was born into slavery in Kentucky. Him and his wife Lucille escaped their captors and moved to Michigan in 1831. Now, a couple of years later, they were spotted by a slave hunter and arrested. The Black community in Detroit did not accept this, and they sparked what was known as the Blackburn Riots, as the community rose up against this injustice. 400 people stormed the jail where he was being held. They freed Thornton Blackburn. And as his pursuers chased him across Detroit, he narrowly escaped them by crossing the Detroit River out of America into Canada. That's an amazing, harrowing tale. But his story doesn't stop there. His impact continued. Because after he was in Canada, the American government said, you must return this man to face charges. Thankfully, the lieutenant governor refused, citing that a man cannot steal himself, you know, and that the lifelong punishment of slavery is not just for any crimes that he committed. Now, that's important because that ruling became the cornerstone of Canada's extradition policy, which paved the way for so many people to make the path along the Underground Railroad during the US Civil War. That decision to not send that man back allowed so many others to be freed from the States. I also want to share about another individual, another abolitionist named Mary Bibb. Now, Mary Bibb was born free in Rhode Island. She was educated in Massachusetts and became one of the first Black women teachers in North America. Now, by the time her and her husband Henry had moved to what is today Windsor, Ontario, she was active in the abolitionist movement. She frequently took in former slaves into her home through the Underground Railroad. And one of the things that she's known for is in 1851, she published with her husband the newspaper called Voice of the Fugitive. It was the first major newspaper targeted at Black Canadians. She wrote articles and interviewed slaves to share their stories, and is known as Canada's first Black female journalist. Through that time and having that background in education, she never lost that passion. She saw the greater need for education in Black young people, and so she opened a school for Black children who were not allowed to attend public schools here in Canada. Now, the reason I share about those abolitionists is because of the parallels that it draws, not just to what the work we're doing here in Manitoba, but the work of history makers that have been on display throughout our own province's Black history. The way Mary Bibb was passionate about education, so were pioneers like Billy Beale, one of the first Black people to move to the Swan River region. And he was actively involved in education, serving in that school district from 1912 for 37 years. He was on that school board. And just like him, Annette Stevenson was a Winnipeg School Division trustee. That's right. Annette Stevenson was elected as a Winnipeg School Board trustee in 1974 till 1981. And she was an advocate for Black students and for more Black teachers. She was instrumental in that division, developing a breakfast program because she knew that kids were coming to school hungry. She was so instrumental. And the same way that we learned about Thornton Blackburn and the community that rallied around to set him free, we have had impact makers in Manitoba who built community and collaborated. People like John Arthur Robinson, who lived in Winnipeg and worked as a sleeping car porter. And we learned about that legacy from our stories from Dale this evening. And Mr. Robinson, along with a coalition of other folks, started the union called the Order of the Sleeping Car Porters. And we all, I'm sure, hopefully watched the show, The Porter, which describes some of that journey. But that's a huge part of our Black history here in Manitoba. And the impacts of those people's actions have reverberated across our province to this very day. And so when we learn about those pioneers who fought for freedom, who worked to abolish the evil of slavery, we learn about people who shared their stories and educated, as we learn about people who build community and make lasting impacts. We empower ourselves with that shared spirit of perseverance. Perseverance against all odds. We empower ourselves with the shared spirit of opportunity through education. We empower ourselves with that internal truth that life can always be better. Better for us and better for future generations because of the choices and the work that we put in today. And so the same way that ripples of action of abolitionists like Mary Bibb and Thornton Blackburn turned into the crashing wave of Emancipation Day, so too will the ripples of action that we choose to make in our lives turn into a crashing wave of greater equality in our society. Now, one quote I love is from Frederick Douglass, short and sweet. He says, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." And I think I'm living proof of that. I think many of us in this room are living proof of that. So many people know that coming to Canada is not easy, regardless of the means we take to get here. My parents, proudly from Trinidad and Tobago, they immigrated here to Winnipeg. And their journey, just like so many others, folks we've heard tonight, was not without its struggle. And that journey, even to get here, is not possible without emancipation. Me, being born here and raised here and having opportunities to get educated and to have a career is not possible without emancipation. And certainly, I don't become one of the first 3 Black MLAs elected here in Manitoba without Emancipation Day. So the fact is that I'm living Emancipation Day every single day, and so are you. It is quite clear that Emancipation Day is not just something that happened 188 years ago. Emancipation Day is alive. The spirit of freedom from abolitionists 2 centuries ago was on display by pioneering Manitobans like Billy Beale, John Robinson, Inez Stevenson, and so many others. And that spirit is alive through groundbreakers that we have today, like Councillor Chambers, like Minister Gordon, like Mayor Hines in Stonewall, and Councillor Frangie and Brandon, my colleague, MLA Asaguara. We're all groundbreakers. We all stand on the shoulders of those pioneers. But more importantly, that spirit of freedom through Emancipation Day is alive through all of you. That freedom from Emancipation Day is alive through all of us who choose to make a more positive impact on the world around us. So yes, we acknowledge that the freedom is not done. We acknowledge that. We know that the path towards full equality has not been completed. We face inequity. We face racism. We face prejudice. We face discrimination every single day in our community. We know without question, there is so much more to do. And that's why we are called by the abolitionists who fought for emancipation to honor that fight and that struggle for freedom by putting in the work today to make our communities better, a better place, a more free place to live. So I'm going to end my remarks by thanking all of you. But I want you to know one thing, that our job now is to ensure that that spirit remains alive. That spirit of freedom remains alive. That we educate young people, that we tell our children about the power of freedom through Emancipation Day, and what that freedom has afforded us. That the fire of that freedom burn brightly through future generations, because the spark of that fire is truth. The ignition of that fire is perseverance. The fuel of that fire is the community right here. And all together, when that's all combined, that fire of freedom can never be extinguished. So I say once again to you, happy Emancipation Day.
Thank you, Jamie. You know, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure for me to experience this evening with all of you. I thank you all for engaging with us, for listening, for being a part of this evening. It is so very significant and important. And to close us off this evening with some closing remarks and thank yous and all the fun things, is this wonderful woman who happens to be co-organizer of this event and the chair of Black History Manitoba. Please welcome Nadia Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. And I always get the hard job of making you stay to hear all about the thank yous and the homework and all that stuff that I have to give you. But today I have good news and I have better news. Is that fair? So this has been an awesome, awesome event, and I want to thank the 200 plus people that came out today. So obviously, it takes a team. It is not just one person that ever does anything. There has to be some work together to have these things come to life. And we thought about this for years ago when Mr. Moses first came and said, this is what's going to happen and this is what I'm doing. Will you do it with me? And you didn't even have to finish the sentence. Yeah. So thank you so much for the privilege of having me help you celebrate this day with everybody else. So I for sure have to help. I have to thank our co-partners for this event, President Titi and Akomi, all of your hard work and all of you who came about and decided to do this with us. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. So thank you so much for partnering with us. And I can't even thank enough the Canadian Museum for Human Rights and all the work that they did to make this possible. Francis, Tyler, Lori, you guys have just really went above and beyond, and I really, really appreciate everything that you did. So thank you so much. I made new friends. Sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. I went away and I came back and I was just overwhelmed and it was crazy. But I'm going to be personal for a second because COVID made such a huge impact on the way that we relate to people and the way that we organize ourselves and the way that we connect. And the fact that I got to meet Francis before COVID, and then the friendship was just automatic. And so thank you so much for putting up with me to do this. So I apologize. I also want to thank Melissa from Brownie's Urban Bistro for the appetizers. And side note, I want to thank my beautiful, wonderful daughter who made all the desserts. So not only is she talented, but she probably takes a little bit after myself. So I appreciate that very much. Above and beyond, so thank you. My team, my partners and my family from Black History Manitoba, you guys are just fantastic. Under our leadership of Ms. Mavis, who has put up with me since I was yay high. And all the things that I've learned and I focused on because of you. You're my second mom. My mom already knows. I love you to death and I would do anything that you ask me. So thank you so much. I would like to thank all those who came and put in so much work in this program itself. I know it's long and but it's important, and we need to make sure that we educate ourselves, that we're full of knowledge, and we continue to spread that knowledge to others. So you come here and you listen, but you need to take what you hear, go out into that city and spread the word, let everybody know. So thank you to our drummer, our poet, Dr. Archer, for stepping in. I really, really appreciate that. Ms. Shelley, who did the acknowledgement for stepping in as well, and doing that for us. Both of them are part of the Black History Manitoba team. I also want to thank Rochelle for the anthem, for all the greetings from all of our government officials. You are the people that we entrust to grow our city, to grow our community, and the fact that you're here makes a huge difference as the way that we see you and the way that you represent us. So we appreciate you being here. And on behalf of our community and myself, thank you so much for your time. On a side note though, I want to see you all the time. Okay? Not just election year, not just when it's free, and not just when you need to show a face. Is that fair? All right. I think it was Mr. Judy that said, you know, you don't have to always say things that's going to make you comfortable. That's going to make you uncomfortable sometimes. Okay? Constable Dale. Just an absolute pleasure. Not only speaking to you, but meeting you and hearing your story. You're a remarkable human being. Thank you for all that you do for our city, and keep spreading what you do like a virus. And be safe and know that we got your back, okay? I have the pleasure of working with the young ladies that you see here dancing. I used to be one of those young ladies. Yeah, love it. But it just, I take that time purposely because I was there and I know how important that was to have somebody that wants to share our culture and grow these young people into something more. And I see my sister Latoya is out there, and she knows exactly what I mean when I say we need to take the time as adults, as parents, as caregivers, whatever you are, we need to take the time with our young people and give back and let them learn and let them know how we got to where we are, because it's important. So to the Jamaican Association dancers, my heart, thank you so much for being here and for doing that. Mr. Moses, I don't even have to say that. You're a blessing, continue to be a blessing to you and your family. We adore you and we thank you for everything. We have a fantastic tech team here, so to Lino, to Camelia, to Nate, to David and Michelle, and all the other young people that were at the registration table, the staff here at the Human Rights Museum. Thank you guys so much for making everything run so smoothly and getting everything set up to go. Rhonda also helping with the stream and all of those things that you do and all the little things that people have been doing, the people that are working on the concert, all of those things brought it all together. So we thank all of you. If I miss anybody, it is not because you're not meaning something or your efforts are going unnoticed. It's just because I'm exhausted. And I apologize. So please, from the bottom of my heart, anybody that had anything to do with this, thank you, thank you, thank you. Last but not least, I cannot forget our fantastic, our beautiful, our Peggy lovely. She got the call or the notice, and I didn't even have to think twice, and I didn't have to really do much. I just said, "Can you do it?" I said, "Yeah." Okay, I'll see you then. think we're in somewhat of a competition to see who can wear each other out first. Agree. Am I ready? Agree. I'm reading a little bit. Okay. So with that being said, I want to encourage you to stick around and enjoy our Freedom Concert. And I call it the Freedom Concert because not only is it in conjunction with the Free Friday for the Human Rights Museum, so they have still stuff, I think they have until 9 o'clock, so you might miss it, but we're still here until about 10 o'clock. We have some really, really fantastic artists that will perform for you. And on your way out, when you're going through the hallway, we have a gift for you. Unfortunately, I did not bring 200 of those gifts. So again, it's going to be a first come, first serve, but you have to take it and then you have to do me a favor. So when you go out into the hall, Black History Manitoba has an initiative that we are wanting to educate our young people. There are t-shirts out there available to you, and on those t-shirts says, know their names, and our 2022 initiative is artists. So they have different firsts, so Black performers, dancers, choreographers, producers, you name it, are there on the back of those shirts. And also on the back of the shirts are a QR code that will take you to Black History Manitoba website. And I need you to promise me that you're going to take a picture in your shirt and you're going to post it. You're going to hashtag Emancipation Manitoba. You're going to hashtag BHM 2022 and hashtag whatever. Hashtag whatever you want to hashtag, but hashtag. All right, that's a promise? That did not sound confident. Is that a promise? I do want to also thank my family for sure. Everybody knows my partner in crime, Rhonda, is always there putting up with me every step of the way. So I thank her for all that she's done. You are going to want to catch her performance over in the hall. So Bueller Hall, Rhonda, aka Phenom, will be blowing. So you don't want to miss that. And we also have Gladys's Caribbean Kitchen. If you're hungry, get some food. You have to purchase it, sorry. But it is there, it is worth it. You're going to enjoy it. So please. You got to beat down that leave word. But thank you, everyone. Please, if you have to leave, get home safely. For those who can stay, join us in the Bueller Hall. We'll be starting in about 15 minutes.
Thank you, Nadia.